Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jeff from Junior Hockey Advisor. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming on tonight on Sunday night, spending some time with Junior Hockey Advisor. And it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great show. I am super excited about this topic. I'm super excited to have you in the audience. I want to get through a ton of stuff. And as usual, I've got a thousand things I want to talk about. We won't get through everything. We never do. We never make it through anywhere near as much as we want to. But the theme tonight is first impressions, making sure that you set the first impression, the best first impression you can. We're going to get to that a little bit. I want to catch you up on the last few weeks. This has been a great time for me. It's bittersweet in the hockey world. I want to say that first and foremost. I should really start off with telling you who I am and what I do here. Once again, I'm Jeff Colson. The name's on the screen. You can see the name right there. I got involved with this because I got out of the coaching side and got out of the ownership side of junior teams a few years ago. Wanted to stay involved, did not want to become a family advisor, got involved heavily in scouting for a while. Really loved that. I love the passion of that. But I thought there was more. There was a missing link in my world. There was a missing link when I was a coach. There was a missing link when I was a general manager. There was a missing link when I was a parent and still am a parent. And there was a missing link when I was an owner. And that link was education, communication, trying to tie everything together and trying to get this process. You can't simplify it, but you can explain it better. You can communicate it better, and you can try to make it a better situation for everybody. And this comes from the coaching side. This show is just as important for coaches. I get great feedback from coaches and GMs all the way from the USHL on down about utilizing information they get here. This is for parents and somewhat for players too. I don't think we get a lot of players. However, the word is tonight that a lot of parents have had their kids. I had more kids sign up. When I say kids, don't be offended by that term if you're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I have a lot of young hockey players that joined our discussion group today, and I think a lot of it was because parents were pushing because of this topic tonight, first impressions. It's important. So 30 some odd years, 35 years of doing this as an owner, as a coach, as a GM, I really find myself enjoying the communication side just as much as coaching. I really enjoyed being out this week. I was in Shreveport, Louisiana. I got a chance to catch 3 games last week in Shreveport. First time I've watched games in their arena. George's Pond, if you haven't been there, it's a really good environment. They just started loosening the restrictions again, so they were getting a decent crowd in there. They had a pretty darn good crowd for both nights. The second night a little better. Third day was an afternoon game on a Sunday, typically slow for any league, including the NHL. However, this is a different situation. I'm used to being in a rink as a coach or as a GM or as an owner and having people know who I am in those roles. And there's a different deference they give you as a coach or as a GM when you walk into a room and people know who you are. Either they're guarded, if they're a peer, they treat you different. If they're a parent or a player, they treat you different. It's kind of interesting coming in the role I'm in now. I don't know anybody, but a lot of people that were in the rink knew who I was and had some great conversations. I want to say hi to a few people that I met. I met Sarah and her family. It was great to meet Sarah and her family. And Sarah has a relationship with Chet. Chet happens to be the play-by-play announcer for Shreveport. Didn't get a chance to meet him. Hope to meet him soon. But just phenomenal family, great situation there. Part of the family as a hockey player and as a watcher of the show. I ran into Ronnie at the snack bar. He had a great conversation. Met his dog. It was on the Pets Day. So I got a chance to meet his dog. I got a chance to meet his family. Once again, different role, different capacity than the past. I've not really been interacting with fans or parents much over the last 15, 20 years. So I really did enjoy it this weekend. I had that experience all 3 days with a multitude of people, but really only got a chance to retain a couple names. It was really difficult when you meet 3 or 4 people in a row trying to retain names. So thank you for the rest of the people I met out there. I met some great people. Shreveport's got some great fans, great hockey. And Wichita, same thing. Great situation there with their team. They're doing extremely well for a first-year team in the league. And it was great to meet your fans too and meet some of the parents that are participating in this show, and hopefully some are on tonight. If you're a Shreveport or a Wichita fan and you're on tonight, or you're watching this in the rebroadcast, please put your comments on. I'd love to hear from you. So that was my last week. You all know that 2 weeks ago we did the marathon. We did 6 shows in a row on one night on a Sunday, and we covered the gamut. Right now, we're trying to really get our content reorganized, and this is it's a massive task when you've got hundreds of videos out there, and a lot of them are freeform like this because we talk and we discuss and we have questions coming in from you. So trying to categorize these and repackage, rebrand, whatever you want to say, is important to us, and that's a lot of the work is going into that right now. On a personal note, I think some of you have heard me talk about the fact that we're remodeling our whole house right now. Literally, this background is not a real background. There's furniture stacked up in every single room in my house. There's only a few rooms that are available to use. The bathrooms and in our bedroom are pretty much the only place, and I've got a very small area. My wife's got a very small area that's desk space available because we got furniture out of the whole first floor. So we're getting through it, but it has definitely taken a toll on my ability to focus on projects. That's kind of one of the reasons we took a week and went to Shreveport. Some of you saw that I posted up some things on the Shreveport trip. Yes, we did go through Memphis, and I'd been stationed when I was in the Marine Corps at Memphis for a brief period of time. So we did the Beale Street. We went down into Sun Records. We went over to the hotel where Martin Luther King Jr. Was assassinated. We saw the highlights of the town. On the way through, we stopped and saw where President Bill Clinton was born. A little bit of that was a dud. It was a building, and I was expecting a little bit more. I thought there'd be, I guess in hindsight, what else should there be there but a house? But I was expecting more. It didn't pan out to be as interesting going to Hope, Arkansas as I thought it would be. But we did it. We saw another one. And that's one thing I would say that my wife and I really try to take advantage of over the years as a parent. Now, this isn't as a coach or a general manager or as an owner, but as a parent. Smelling the roses. Every chance we get when we go on the road, we try to find something interesting, and especially with our kids, because those of you that aren't in the junior world know that when the kids get in their junior mindset around their peers as junior players, they don't tend to step out of that comfort zone. Not many of them are going, hey, let's go see the sights, or let's go see something interesting. And I know when I go visit my kids, both my children and other teammates, I try to go out to a different restaurant. I try to take them out to see something they haven't seen in that town that they're living in. And I think that's important. And, that's just me, but my opinion is this is much more than just hockey. This is about a family experience, and that's enough said on that. I want to get through a couple other things real quick, and then we'll get on to our topic. I'm so excited about the topic tonight. I see we got some questions coming in. I'll say hi to some people here in a second, too. I do want to put a special get well out to my cousin Jeannie in Flint, Michigan. She's one of our biggest fans. She's a converted OHL fan. I think I got her into watching American hockey now, but Flint has an OHL franchise, so I can understand that. But I think we got her looking at some of the other leagues now, especially the North American Hockey League. So I hope she feels better. She's a little under the weather this last week, and I know that she's on the mend. All right, let's get on. I got to tell you, contest. Let's have a contest starting right now. I'll publish something tomorrow, so it's official, so everybody can see that we're going to have a contest. But you get first dibs at this. We're going to raffle off a hour consult. If you haven't taken advantage of it or know about it, we do consult calls and we do webinars that are part of our juniorhockeyadvisor.com website. Pretty much all the content that you get here is there, but it's just packaged, so it's a little easier to get to, and it's in a webinar format, and it's in a more of an educational tool format. But we're going to have a contest. We're so close. We're breaking through. We had 1,000 new members since January 1st into our discussion group alone. That's new members into our discussion group. 1,000. Well, it's actually 998. But by the end of today, I see a couple clicks coming in. I'm hoping those are some new members coming in. It will be at 1,000 today. But we're still at that goal of reaching 5,000. So we're gonna pull a random winner for anybody that invites friends that actually join. Inviting 30 people that are aunts and uncles that have nothing to do with hockey that don't join the group doesn't help. It only counts when they click on join on their end. So you can invite 100 people, but if only two join, only two join. But you get a your name's in a hat for every time you get somebody that joins the discussion group. So if you get 5 people to join, you get 5 chances of winning. We're going to do it for the most, and we're going to do one random winner. So there'll be 2 winners, one just random. If you get one person in, you're in. You get a chance to win. If you get 50 in, you get 50 chances to win. And so we're going to pick the one that has the most. And we also have the one that's a random winner too. So love to see the numbers grow. We're shooting for that 5,000. That's going to really help us on our new formats. New formats going to include more guests. We really haven't been a guest show, but we're going to start incorporating a different part of the podcast or webinars or the live streams into guests. And those are guests across the hockey world. But there's so many people that do guests, and there's so many people that just have guests coming on saying the same thing. It's like listening to a between the period interview with an NHL game. We want interesting things. We want different things being said. We want unique perspectives on things. So I just don't want to throw on a guest because they have NHL next to their name or they have NCAA Division I next to their name. I want to have guests that have actually something unique to say. We're working on that right now, but we need to hit 5,000. So, invite people to join our group, invite people to come on board. You could be doing that while you're listening right now, and you get a chance to win. And what does the consult call get you? Well, that's one of the things we do normally charge for, but a consult call gives you a chance to sit down with an expert, me, and spend some time walking through the process, walking through a unique, customized situation. And remember, I'm not an advisor. I don't try to be an advisor. What I try to do is walk you through different impasses and different crossroads and make sure that you understand all the options available and the viable options and what are the most popular choices and the ups and downs of the different choices you can make, the pluses and minuses. So take advantage of it. Let's grow this group. I cannot believe how fast it's grown already. We are in our category. We are already the largest junior hockey consult advice news site on the web right now. So it's great to see us growing. It's great to see how many people are involved, but we got to get bigger. The bigger gives us a chance to get some advertisement involved. Getting advertisement allows us to reform our content. What we're going to do is we're going to add new content. We're going to do some new look stuff, and we're going to also change the formatting a little bit, all to make this easier, better, and more accessible to you and get you involved. So let's say hello to a few people, and then let's get rolling. We got Sean out there saying get well to cousin Jeannie. We've got Tim and Cameron in Kansas City. We've got Brian in Trenton, Michigan. We've got Greg coming in from Amherstburg, Ontario, just south of Windsor, for those that didn't know. Let's see who else we've got on here. We've got Sean that's coming in from Edmonton. We've got a Facebook user in New York City. I don't know what platform it only shows up at Facebook user, but we've got somebody in Denver. Some of them it just shows up as Facebook user. I'm not really sure where those come in from. Patrick's in Toronto. We've got Jenny coming in from Kentucky, but her son's out in Wisconsin. Good luck to your son. And we'll get to some other people and say hi to some other people as we go along there too. I see some questions popping in there too. But let's get on with the topic of the night. Okay, how far in am I already? I'm already in a few minutes and just now getting around the topic. Okay, well, bear with me. This is going to be a good show. I'm going to give you a story first. I think it's important that we start with a story, and this might help a lot. We've got a really nice, large audience for a Sunday night. As you know, we get a relative small audience live. The rebroadcast is where most people watching this. So if you watch us on a rebroadcast, please take the time to still comment, still ask questions. I try to get back to them, but after last week's 6 hours, I'm still probably 100, 150 responses behind on people. I'm trying my darndest to get a hold of return to everybody, but if I don't, I try to answer live when we talk here so that we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So a few years ago, I'm still a relatively new coach. I'm coaching. I'd been already coaching at the NCAA level as assistant coach. My wife became pregnant with our first child, And I decided that coaching at the NCAA Division I level, I was a doctoral student and an NCAA Division I coach at the same time. My ultimate goal was not to be an NCAA Division I coach or a Division III coach, and I always envisioned being an educator but coaching. And so I made a choice to step away from NCAA coaching, and I jumped into a local team. I picked up a high school program here. Just an incredibly valuable experience. I just loved the high school coaching experience that I had. I had a really strong boosters club. I had a very supportive parent base, and I had a very supportive athletic director, which put me in a really good spot. I had no talent whatsoever in the team. Even the kids on the team, the ones that are watching or listening, I'm sure they'll jump on and say the same thing. Yeah, we weren't talented. We had everything from some a couple tier 1 players, a lot of tier 2 players, a lot of house players, and but we made do with what we had, and we did the best we could, and we worked really hard. But one of the things I did in my second year was I took the team. We had a break over the Christmas period, and so I think we took like 5-6 days, and we went to Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where I graduated. That's where I played, and I thought it'd be a really good experience for them to skate in, Yost Arena, get the experience. And it was fabulous. Now, we originally had a couple teams from Michigan that were going to play us. We got into some situations with the rules between New York and the state of Michigan on, what constitutes a high school game, what constitutes a scrimmage. So we lost our game, so we ended up just practicing, having a mini camp and doing some scrimmages. But one thing was nice is Red Berenson came out on the ice with us one day, and he also came in the locker room to talk. So having Red Berenson, and for those of you that don't know the name Red Berenson is iconic in the hockey world. He's iconic in the college hockey world, especially. He's done it all. I mean, he's been an NHLer, scored 5 goals in one game in the NHL. Played college hockey, one of the first college hockey players, played at the University of Michigan, and then ended up being a very long-time coach at the University of Michigan and well-respected across the board. He came in the locker room. Now, I was not anywhere near being a star player at Michigan. I was a fringe player at best, and basically was on the roster until injuries and eligibility took me off the roster, and that was more of a Marine Corps issue, not a academic issue. So Red comes in, has great things to say, really gives the guys a wonderful motivational talk. But something was bothering. You could tell he was just, as he's going around the room, he's getting himself fired up. And and I've known Red at this time for 20 years. Well, at that time probably 15 years. And as I'm watching him, just getting steamed up, you can see his face is getting flushed, and he's a passionate man already. His eyes are even getting beadier than they normally are. Something was ready to go. And finally, he let it go. He goes, listen, not one guy in this room would get a chance at Michigan, and I'll tell you why. And he went around the room, and here I am. I'm a new coach. I'm still raw. I've been doing it for a few years as an assistant, but I really didn't know what the heck I was doing at that time. I mean, I would contend that every coach bounces off the wall the whole time they're coaching and never figures it out. And that's the beauty of coaching, is you're always trying to get better. You're always trying to figure out better ways to do things. You're always trying to improve yourself, and you're never complacent. At least a good coach is that way. But I'm new and I'm raw, and I think I've got this group locked down. I think I'm doing a lot of things right. And he goes, here's why. He goes, you haven't made eye contact with me once the whole time I've talked in this room. And he points to this guy, and he goes, either you, and you, and you. If you can't make eye contact with an adult when they're talking, I'm not going to take my time with you, because you've got to grow up. You've got to learn how to deal with adults. He goes, you've got a hole in your ear. You've got a hole in your ear. You've got a hole in your ear, and you've got an earring in. He goes, I would not even consider you guys, because if you're worried about jewelry, you're not worried about hockey. Just calling it right out as it is. He goes, you got mixed max socks on. He goes, you got pink laces. And he just went around the room and ripped on things. Now, part of this is my fault, because it was Christmas break. A lot of things that we normally had in place were lax. However, this was a wake-up call to this group of guys, especially the guys that there were a few in this room that actually did go on to play college hockey. And he basically ripped a new, in all these players. And nobody was left unscathed. The only one that he didn't attack directly was me, but ultimately the one he attacked the most was me. And the one that probably took it to heart the most was me, because I hadn't prepared these players. From now, we didn't go there to really have our players recruited to Michigan. There was no chance in hell that any of these players were going to play at the University of Michigan. They knew it, I knew it, he knew it. He was coming in because I'd been a former player and talking to him as a courtesy and as a good PR move for a team that's in his building for the whole week. But the lesson was there. The lesson was there that his first impression of that team bothered him enough that instead of just coming in and saying, hey, it's great to have you here, here's what we look at for our players here, he ended up turning around and getting irritated about it because there were so many little things that could be corrected. In his conversation with me afterwards, and he didn't need to have this conversation with me because I was already embarrassed. I was already feeling like I'd let him down as my former coach. I'd let my team down because I hadn't prepared him right, and my parents down, and myself down. So I was already upset. I was already like, man, I got to fix these things. There's so many little things that I didn't do right. But he came right out and said it. He goes, first of all, it's their choice on how they present themselves. He goes, there's nothing stopping them from being the best dressed. There's nothing stopping them from looking the most presentable. There's nothing stopping them from having good haircuts. That was another thing he really ripped on, was haircuts. He goes, there's nothing stopping them from, when I walk in the room, making eye contact with me and saying, hello, coach, and greeting me. He goes, those are all personal choices. Now, he goes, you can help with those things. He goes, but those are choices that are made by players. And it was so powerful. And their transformation in the majority of those kids from that one meeting throughout the rest of their hockey careers, and some of them, like I said, moved on, was amazing. It was amazing to watch, before we went on the ice, how many guys ripped laces out of their skates, put new laces in before they stepped back on the ice, because we were doing this little mini camp. It was amazing how many shirts got tucked in. Now, tucked in shirts are kind of passe now, but it was amazing how many people combed their hair, didn't put their hats on backwards. It just presented themselves better and started making eye contact with not only me as a coach, but anybody they were interacting with in the hockey world after that. And it really did make a great impression on these players, and it made an impression on me. And I thought I'd share that with you because that really, essentially, it wraps up the whole conversation I want to have. Now, I'm going to go into a few different situations, especially for parents and players, and even for coaches on little things that are subtle that make the difference on first impressions. But remember, there's a large pool of players. It doesn't matter if you're Tier 3 and you're looking to make your best first impression at Tier 3, Tier 2, Tier 1, NHL, across the board, first impressions are extremely, extremely important. So, you could say, well, it's just a tryout. And you can walk in with a pair of shorts on, a tank top on, a pair of flip-flops on, hat on backwards, sunglasses either up on your head or your sunglasses flipped in the middle of your tank top. It's the middle of the summer, and you could walk in to check in and go, yeah, my name's Colson. Yeah, I'm here to skate. Yeah, tryout, main cap. Where do I go? Where's my jersey? Or you could walk in, even if it's a pair of shorts, with a decent pair of shoes on, with a nice looking, polo golf shirt, whatever the case is, no hat on, and, walking in, shaking hands with whoever's at the desk, going, my name is, introducing yourself and setting off on the right foot, being the first in the building. And there's a list of things that I wanted to just share with you that it doesn't take any effort on. There's no effort to be the best dressed. Doesn't mean you're walking out and buying brand new suits or you're wearing a $1,000 suit on game days. No. Best dressed means, and this is the downfall of junior hockey players that are trying to dress. Let them dress on the bus right before they get to the game. So they're pulling up to the rink. They've been on the road for 4 or 5 hours. They want to walk in with a suit on. So they're throwing on a white shirt, a tie that's already been tied, that's been in their suit bag for the whole season. They throw on the tie, they throw on the suit, they throw on a pair of pants and a jacket. And they don't have a belt on. They don't have socks on with their dress shoes, and they look, horrid, but they're complying. Okay, and if there's anything I can say is there's nothing wrong with finishing off the product, putting that belt on, putting those dress socks on, looking the part. Tennis shoes and suits. I mean, I know you see it. especially on NFL Sundays when you're seeing all these different, or you're watching NBA, you see the announcers and you see the analysts in between games, and they all wear expensive tennis shoes with their suits. That might work, but remember your audience. And I want to get through this list. There's nothing wrong with being the most informed, and I want to get into being the most informed in a second. Being the most prepared, being the most informed, they kind of overlap a little bit, and being the most timely. Okay, if you're the best dressed, you're on time, and you're well informed because you did your homework before you walked in the room. Okay, so let's talk about that. What do I mean by most informed, and what do I mean about being most prepared? Okay, well, most informed means that who you're trying out for or who you're speaking to. Let's say I'm going to a tryout. Let's say I'm going to a pre-draft skate for a junior team. Do I know the coaches' names? Have I looked at pictures of them online so I know what they look like? Do I know enough about this team and the league and the level they play at? Did I take time to actually look at their roster and see where other players are coming from, how old they are? Do I really have a shot? I'm 15 or 16 years old. Oh, well, the whole roster is all 19 and 20-year-olds. Okay, so I'm here for a different reason then. Did I take the time to find that out? Am I appropriately placed in this group? Should I even be here? Should I be at this group, or should I be somewhere else for tryouts? That's all about being informed and being prepared. So the information side alone, the coaches, the team, the league, okay? It's past players, present players, and future players. And I've showed you before how to use elite prospects where you can go back in and look and see where players have come from to that team, because you always want to know where they're getting their players from. What players have left that team? Where did they go? And with a click of a button, at the college level, you can't do it with a click of a button for juniors or anything below that. But if I'm going into college, I can click a button. I can see what they've got listed for next year for incoming freshmen. So knowing as much as I possibly could know about that 16 team, that 18 team, that junior team, that college team, and who I'm talking to is extremely important. There's nothing that makes me cringe more than having a player meet a coach for the first time where the coach has reached out by text and had a couple little chats with the coach and and says to the player, I'm going to come watch you play this weekend. I'd like to meet you after your game. So after the game, the player comes out of the locker room. The coach is courteous. He waits outside the locker room. Once the head coach is done talking in the locker room with his players, the player comes out to speak to either the junior or the college coach. And he goes, the college coach or the junior coach asks right away, so what do you know, or what questions do you have about my program? And he goes, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Okay, what kind of impression are you setting right there? And once again, keep in mind, and this is the part that is so critical about the process. It doesn't matter who that coach is. You treat them like they're Scotty Bowman. And if there's one message I'd love to get across to everybody, don't ever discount a coach because of where he's coaching now. The game is too small. Coaches move all the time. And the guy you think, I'm not going to give him the time of day because he's a D3 coach at a community college in the middle of New York, and I'm not interested. Then you find out next year that guy is the assistant coach at the University of Minnesota, and that's really where you wanted to go. And I'm using that as an extreme case, but it works like that all the time. That guy is a Tier 3 junior coach, and there's numerous examples of this where somebody's coaching Tier 3 juniors, or they're coaching as an assistant coach in the Tier 2 or Tier 1 level. All of a sudden they're a D1 head coach or a D1 assistant coach or a D3 head coach within 1 or 2 years of the first time you met them. And if that's the case, that first impression could last because that could be the guy that you want to play for ultimately. So making sure that first impression is done right is extremely important. And I hope that helps a little bit, but that really is the message across the board. Be the statistical improvement on the odds, not something that can take away. What does that mean? How do I statistically improve my odds of making my first impression great? Okay, combing my hair. If I walk out of the locker room after a game or I walk into a locker room before a game and I'm completely disheveled, I look disheveled, and that's what a coach sees, it's not going to help me. If I look put together and I present myself well, that can help me. So what category do you want to be in? Remember, if there's There's 60 some odd D1 schools. There's 80 some odd Division III schools. That's a small pool to move into. And if your odds are you're fighting against, in the global pool of players, 10, 15, 20 players to get to that one specific school, you want to do things that are going to set you apart. So part of it's knowing your audience. What do I mean by knowing your audience? Well, knowing your audience is, hey, what's acceptable to even your parents? What's acceptable to your local U18 coach? What's acceptable to your high school when you're walking down the halls may not be acceptable to a 45, 55-year-old head coach of a junior program or a Division I program, or a 35 to 45-year-old. Because these are established adults that have a different onset and a different mindset about the world. They see the world differently. So put yourself in a situation where the odds are in your favor. Clean cut never hurts anybody, okay? Clean cut, you can say, well, I want to express my individuality, okay? Most coaches don't look at it that way when they see somebody and go, oh, you know what, he's a free spirit. I like free spirits on my team. They might like creativity. They might like somebody that's got a heartbeat and challenges the system once in a while in the right ways. They might like somebody that pushes the boundaries on the ice. But I can tell you this, they want conformity in the locker room. They want somebody that's going to be a good teammate. They want somebody that can actually abide by the rules of looking the part and playing the part and presenting themselves as the part, meaning part of the team. So, there are ways to express creativity. You can write poetry. You can sing songs on your own time. You can have a social media presence. I don't know what you want to do on your creative side, as long as it's showing up to the rink the right way and presenting yourself the right way across the board. That's what's extremely important on this. So I hope that helps. Let's jump on, say hi to a couple different people, and see if we got questions. I want to get into a little bit more on this, but there's a couple things I want to talk about with parents and coaches on this too. So I want to say hi to Mark from Bloomington, Rob Zahn from Illinois, another Facebook person on from Orleans, Ontario, Reg Dunlop's on. I'm not sure where Reg is from, doesn't say. Let's see, Scott's on from Philadelphia. And let's see, we got Greg on. Oh, we already said hi to Greg. So we got some new members coming on all the time. Appreciate it. So let's continue the conversation a little bit. The questions that are on are not really relating to what I'm seeing or what the topic is right now. I want to jump on and see just real quick. Okay, I'll jump on to some of the questions that are there later, and when we get to just open questions, but I want to stay on topic for right now. So let's talk about the parent perspective on things and what first impressions mean. Very good, Scott. You're reading my brain a little bit on this one. I'll get to this one in a second. I threw that one up there. What can you do to stand out in a tryout? We're going to get there. Give me a second on that one. And Reg is from Madison, Wisconsin. Thanks, Reg. I appreciate you jumping on and throwing that on there too. Okay, so I want to talk about the parent perspective. Okay, there's a fine line when your player is in that 15 to 20-year-old category, and the fine line is their independence and what a coach and a program expects out of them with their independence and their maturity and their autonomous presence. And there's also the part of you still being a parent and wanting to make sure that you represent them and you're involved in certain aspects of the whole process. And it's a very, very difficult corridor to stay in without leaning too far left or too far right on this. You don't want to be that overbearing parent, and you also don't want to be so far away from the process that you're letting adults manage your son. Okay, and what I mean by that is everybody should always be fearful from U15 up when you start hearing coaches say, it's time for your son to deal with this like an adult. It's time for him to be a man and handle his own situations. Yes and no. Okay, to a point, I agree with that. As a coach, I agree with that. But remember, coaches rarely meet with players one-on-one. It's usually a coach and assistant coach. You've got two adults in the room, two adults with 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of experience apiece as players and coaches against a player that's 15, 16 years old. Usually that's not a good situation where it's going to have a healthy outcome because, usually it's a one-way conversation, and usually it does not bode well across the board. There is no interactive side, nor do most players feel comfortable speaking up to an adult, especially if it's a couple adults that are unified, trying to make a point to them. So there's a fine line there. But we're still just talking about first impressions here. So I throw that out because I do truly believe there's a need all the way up through juniors for parents to still have, a foot in the door on, being involved, although being less and less. However, in the first impression stage, in that stage where the player needs to initiate his first impression, there should be little to no parent involvement. Do not walk up with your son when he registers for a main camp or a tryout camp, or he's meeting the coach for the first time. There's a way to do it where the courteous way is to, take 3 or 4 steps behind your player, let them do it all. Don't even be a presence there if at all possible. You can be in the building. So you walk in the building and you see that there's a registration player. It's got to be something that is known in advance, because you don't want your player looking around going, "Mom, where's the checkbook? Mom, where's my USA card? Mom, I don't have my socks." That's go back to that list about being prepared. Go back to that list about being informed, being timely, all those things. That's all first impression stuff, okay? They can't walk into a building going, "Well, I got to ask my mom. I got to text my mom. I got to talk to my dad." Kiss of death right off the bat. Now, is that the difference between making a team or not? Well, it could be if there's enough angst put in that situation where they go, "We're not going to, this kid's still, nursing, and we want a kid that's a little bit more independent, or we need a kid that's a little bit more mature." So yeah, it's stepping off on the wrong foot right off the bat. Coming in, looking the part, being ready. Sticks are taped. My skates are sharpened. My gear is dry and ready to go. There's no excuses across the board that I can't present myself well and be ready and prepared to play. As a parent, I'm making sure that he's got the funding and all of his registration information ready, and going, "Hey, look, when you walk in the door, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. If you need me, let me know. But remember, this is all about you now. This is something you've got to handle. You've got everything you need. Do you have any questions before you go?" That way they're on their own. It's much better to set it up that way. Set it up so that the player has the feeling that they're going in and handling. Now, a lot of them want to do that already. A lot of them want to walk in and go, "Come on, man, mom, dad, leave me alone. I'm going to go do that. I got this. Can you wait in the car? Do you really need to watch tryouts?" That side's there too. I get that. But the biggest part on the parent side is, unless there is a meeting for parents, where they go, "Hey, we're going to have a meeting at 4:00 during the tryouts for parents, and for parents to, we're going to give a little presentation about our program." Go to the meeting, sit in the front row, and keep your mouth shut. Okay? You don't really need to ask any questions. There is nothing that you need to ask a question about in that meeting. As much as you want to, there's nothing you need to ask a question about. Okay? And if there is, you can find another parent right afterwards, a veteran parent, a parent that's been down the road once, or done a few laps around the block in the junior world or the U16, 18 world. Ask them. You don't have to, answer your hands or raise your hand for anything. There just really isn't a need. And when I say that with all utmost respect for whatever question you have, but it doesn't need to be answered there. Just don't be that parent. Don't do anything where they're going, "Who does that parent belong to?" Because you might think it's the most important question in the world, and it's a question where the coach is going, "I can't believe that's the question they're coming up with." So just don't put yourself in that spot. Smile, take notes, and when they're done, say, "Thank you, have a great day," and you walk out, and you don't need to chit-chat with a coach. If the coach approaches you, fine. Shake their hand, say hi, put a connection together with their players. If you've had any interaction with them in the past, have a little chit-chat. But absolutely, draw the line right there. Don't step over the line and say, "What are you looking for?" Don't try to promote your player right there on the spot. They're not there. They don't want to hear that. They're absolutely not looking for you to broker a deal. They're looking to now. The difference though is if the coach says, "Hey, Mrs. So-and-so, I want to meet in a few minutes with you one-on-one. Can we meet with you and your son Johnny, and we want to chat about some things?" That's different. Okay, now they're initiating contact. then you have a chance to ask more questions if they want to have a one-on-one. But in other words, your first impression is don't be an impression as a parent. Don't get involved. Don't interact. Okay, and that leads into another conversation. Don't grab your son's phone and elaborate any text if a coach is texting him. Okay, it's good that you look at text, and if your son or daughter is sharing a text from a coach with you that's reaching out to them, that's great. But a coach can tell when a parent is returning the text and they're not. Same with emails. Let it be in your son or daughter. You can have input in an email to a coach. You can say, hey, look, we might want to change that sentence. But it's got to sound like it's coming from a 16 to 18-year-old, a 20-year-old. It can't sound like, mom or dad is written it, edited it, cleaned it up, processed it, brought it into work and had their secretary, double check it for any kind of spelling errors, and then brought it back and and enhanced it. It's got to be in words that come out of a 16 or 18-year-old's mouth, because that's another telltale sign. You don't want to be the parent that's stepping in the way or leaning in too hard. Just be careful, and most of you already know that. Most of you are going to do a great job with that. But if you're going, never thought about it that way, well, maybe this is something that opens the door a little bit for you and help. Okay, so let's get into some questions here. I got some things that are popping up on the board. I want to get back to that first question that came up and please, if you got questions, we got a big group on, throw on your question, and I'll try to get to as many questions as I can coming on. Now, remember, I'm not here to individually say what should I do between this team and that team. Now if you're talking about different categories of teams, like I'm not sure about juniors or prep, we can chat a little bit about that kind of stuff. But I can't choose. That was the biggest thing that came out of the 6-hour marathon last week. Is I got probably 60, 80, maybe 100 requests to identify specifics for people. And to give them specific advice on things. And that's really not what I'm here for. I'm here to teach a process and to help you explore those and give you enough information to get that information yourself. But I'm really not here to give you real specific information. And I hope you respect that. That's really not the platform that we're set up for. So, okay, so talking about standing out in tryouts. Well, hopefully I've helped you out a little bit right off the bat. Be first in line. Be first at the door to go on the ice. Be first, sitting in the front row if there's a team meeting or there's a breakout meeting where they're going to meet with players in smaller groups or even a large group. Look presentable. When you're on the ice, it used to be, I hear people say all the time, if you have a choice, wear 2 different socks so you stand out. I used to have that used to drive me nuts. Okay, yeah, it stands out if you're playing pond hockey. It stands out if you're playing in a men's league. And it stands out if you want to look like a guy wearing 2 different socks out there, okay? But that's not really going to help you with coaches. What will help you, the only identifier that will help you, and this is your discretion. You have to understand the level you're at and who you're trying out for. But if I'm trying out for a team in the Null and I'm coming from Honey Baked, I'm going to have my Honey Baked pants on. If I'm coming from Little Caesars, I'm going to have my Little Caesars pants on, okay? Why? Because they're an instant identifier that you're a Tier 1 player and you've played at an elite level. You'll see certain helmets with certain insignias on them that say, oh, okay, that kid's from Shattuck. That kid is, and I could pick a dozen prep schools or lower-level junior programs from Tier 3 that are going up to Tier 2, or Null kids that are moving up to the next level and trying to make a USHL team. It works across the board. Those identifiers are great. Okay, those are great. If you've got your orange from Little Caesars, wear it. If you got a chance to wear something that identifies you to a high-level team or coach or league, wear it. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. On the same token, if you don't go the opposite way and make yourself look, less than. What's best? Best is standard. But black pair of socks, regular pair of laces, a tape stick that doesn't have, orange, yellow, and blue all over it. Coaches look at that like you're trying to identify. And hey, look, everybody's got issues. Everybody's got causes. Everybody's, and the thing that so many coaches are over right now is There are times to identify, and there's times to represent family members that have been sick or ill or a cause you're fighting for. But when you try to wear it as your identity all the time and say, I'm only doing this because I'm supporting my great grandmother that had this type of illness, and that's why I wear purple. Okay, that works when the team does it as a team. Don't go into trials going, the reason I'm wearing pink laces and pink socks and a pink helmet is because, my great aunt had this disease and I'm supporting the cause. There's a time and place. There's absolutely a time and place for that, but it's not during tryouts. Okay, it's not during a time where they want to see what you can do. So first of all is, look the part. Look the part, play the part, okay? Be in the front of the line. So standing out in tryouts, the other thing too is to listen for the cues of the coach. If the coach says, I'm looking for physical play, be physical. Even if you're not a physical player, show them the most physical you can possibly play. If he says, I'm looking for people that can skate, make sure your feet are moving at all times, because he's giving you the clues right off the bat. And most coaches will tell you right off the bat, but it goes deeper than that. Go back to those things, being the best dressed, being the most informed, being the most prepared, being the most timely. If you're trying out for a team and you don't know what that coach likes, if you don't know what he's looking for, you haven't prepared properly, because all the information's there for you. It's available to everybody. You've got elite prospects, you've got the league sites, you've got their team websites, you've got anything you can Google on them as a coach and as a prior player. You can look at film on the team, because almost everybody's got Live Barn, they've got Hockey TV. You can do your homework, especially at the junior and college level. And if you're not, then there's no excuse. I can tell you this. If I'm working with a player that wants to move up to the next level, I say, talk to me about that tryout when you can come back and tell me everything you know about that coach. Where did he play? What has he coached in the past? How many years has he been there? What's his record? How many players is he losing? How many lefties does he have on the team? How many righties does he have on the team? What can you tell me that he said? If you listen to him on an interview, do you know how he talks about his players? What players leave the program? What players leave early? How many trades did they have last year? Did he trade a lot of guys? Did he trade his veterans off? Did he trade some rookies off? What are your chances of sticking on the roster? That's being informed. That's doing all your homework to be prepared, not only as a parent, but as a player. That's going to help you stand out in the trial, because then you know what you're trying out for and what that coach is looking for. He's going to tell you right off the bat, whoever's on the ice, this drill is set up so we can see this. This is what we're looking for. You as a player can't go out there and say, I'm going to play my game and do what I do best. Of course you need to do that. But you have to do that in the confines of what they're looking for to make that team. If the coach says, hey, look, I'm looking for people that make the hard passes and keep their feet moving, you got to make sure that you're making the hardest pass on the ice and that your feet are moving. They'll tell you 9 out of 10 times, coaches will give you all the clues on what they want out of players during tryouts. And it's your job to do that. When you're on the bench, be engaged. What does that mean? You're watching the play. You're watching the play back and forth. You're not joking around. You're not going like this. You're not making the, hey, Mom, I need a hot dog between the games. Can you get a Gatorade for me? And you're looking up in the stands. No, absolutely not. The higher you go, the less that's palatable. That might work at a U15 tryout for a AA team, but the higher you go up, the less that those kind of things are acceptable. They're going to look at you and go, are you kidding me? This guy's more worried about a hot dog than he is making this team. We're looking for people that will crawl through glass on their knuckles and knees to make this team, and he's worried about a Gatorade and a hot dog between games. Okay, so those are the kind of things that you need to be concerned about. It's a great question. I hope that helps a little bit. Let's see what other things we can talk about here and we can get to. What are coaches looking for in terms of specific skills in a tryout? At the Bantam AAA level, what makes a kid stand out? Well, we talked about this. In Bantam, now you're stepping into the real world. You start getting into Bantam, especially second year Bantam, but first year too. You put it into context. Just look at this from the other side. If you're hiring people at work, do you want somebody walking in that's sloughing with the head on backwards, that looks sleepy, and it doesn't look like that, where you got to pull everything out of them no matter what their credentials say? No. One of the things I learned very early on in this whole process is you can't eat a trophy. Okay? What does that mean? I can't eat a trophy. That means whatever I earned last year, whatever I earned yesterday, whatever medal I got from that weekend tournament 2 weeks ago, that doesn't matter if it's a national championship. It doesn't matter now because now I got to prove myself again. So a lot of players make the mistake of walking in, especially at the elite level, especially at the AAA level, and that bantam age is really important. This is one of the first times they're getting the test of really competing for spots. This is the time where you go, look, you can't live on yesterday. You cannot live off your history. Maybe you played in the Pee Wee Quebec tournament the year before that or 2 years before that. It doesn't matter now. You need to work on what you can do now. Now, all those things matter when they're excited about you. Look, that kid's flying out there. He's moving. He's engaged. He's doing all the things right. Oh, and look at his background. That's great. Now that's where your trophies come in. That's where your accolades come in. That's where your resume comes in. Once you've piqued some interest and they look back and say, oh, you've got a formidable resume. That's great. But you can't eat a trophy when you go into a tryout. You need to go into that AAA tryout. You need to go into that Tier 1 tryout. You need to go in with energy from the time you walk in the door till the time you leave. First in, last out. Look presentable. On the ice, be in the front of the line. On the bench, you're sitting there presenting yourself engaged. What do I mean by that? The coach says, hey, listen up. You're turning, making eye contact with that coach. Coach says, hey, Colson, next shift out, left defense. You might be a right wing. I got it, coach, no problem. Jumping right out. Got it. Okay? Then if there's a break, go, hey, coach, you might want to say at that point, after when you get a break, hey, coach, I'm a right wing? Yeah, I know. I just want to see what you could do on D. No problem, coach. I'll do anything you need. I just want to make sure you knew, okay? And let it go. They can't be like, in the middle of it, go, I'm not a D. You don't know what they're looking for on that team. Maybe everybody plays all positions. So fully engaged, fully presented, making sure you're fully prepared. Meaning, sticks or tape, got a backup stick, got your own water bottle. Do everything in your power to make sure that you're prepared for that. And you're engaged. Then the biggest thing I can say is tryouts are the time when you have the most doubt in what's going on. Tryouts are tough because you're doing drills you haven't done in the past, unless it's your coach that you're trying out for the next, you played for last year. You're around players you didn't play with before. Maybe you're moving up to another level and you haven't experienced that level yet. So when in doubt, move your feet. If you don't do anything else, be moving, because then you're not noticed in a bad way. You're noticed in a positive way. Hey, you didn't know what the hell he was doing out there, but he freaking kept his feet moving and he worked his ass off. That's a great comment for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Versus, hey, you could tell he was lost and he just stood out there. That's not the comment you want to hear. You want to hear energy comments. Look, he finished every check. Look, he made passes and he kept his feet moving. Man, he went to the net hard every single time. We did a little sprints at the end. He was working his way through every one of them. Went line to line, finished every drill right, and he kept his head in there. And he was always making contact when we talked to him. He was always interacting with us. Now, those things are great. One of the things you don't want to hear, doesn't move his feet. Didn't go hard to the net once. No hard passes. Didn't have his head up. Not engaged on the bench. Doesn't support his teammate. There was not once did he go over and slap anybody on the pads and say good job. Those are the things you don't want to hear, and those are the things you're looking for. Or he was too worried about his girlfriend in the stands. Girlfriends are not. I can't tell you this enough. I just remember being in a Muskegon USHL tryout. This is probably 2 or 3 years ago. All the parents were pulled aside, and I'm watching this whole process. GM comes up to speak. They just had a new GM come in. And he goes, look, right off the bat, if you've got time to be on your phone or if you've got your girlfriend here, you don't need to be here. Because I'm looking for people that are fully engaged in what we want, and I'm looking for people that don't have any distractions. So, if your girlfriend's here, tell her to stay at the hotel room. And this is a junior tryout. He goes, if you got your cell phone in the locker room, you might as well just go home right now. We don't need that either. He goes, be engaged in this process, be engaged in what we're doing, okay? So, it starts in the locker room. Don't take the cell phone out in the locker room. Even if you're lonely, even if you don't know what you're doing and you're nervous, the last thing you want to do with 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you go out for a skate is to be on social media. Even if you're just mind numb, playing a game or just killing time. No. Go fill your water bottle up. Go stretch a little bit. Get up, shake it off a little bit. Get your hands loose with your stick. But don't do anything that's going to dissuade a coach from choosing you or to think secondly about their thoughts on you. Well, we really liked him, but man, as soon as he got off the ice, he went right over at mom and dad and his girlfriend, and he just he got enveloped in that. And, his girlfriend was right next to the bench, and he kept making eye contact with his girl, and that happens. From Bantam, midgets, and juniors, kiss of death. So if you got a girlfriend, leave her at home. Enough said on that. Okay, what other kind of questions are coming in? Chris from Alabama, Huntsville, good to see you on board. Jeff from Weston, good to see you on board. Perry, didn't see you come on board. You must have jumped on when I wasn't looking. Is it okay to go with your sons who's 17 to junior camps, tryouts, and pre-drafts? How does the team look at this? It's absolutely great to go to these things. I highly encourage you to go to pre-drafts. I highly encourage you to even go to a main camp. There's nothing wrong with parents going at 16 and 17 and up, even when they get to 18, 19, and 20 and go into the camps and watching. But there's a difference in how the player presents himself there. Is he walking in with mom and dad and he's kind of under mom and dad's wing? Or is mom and dad just happen to be in town? Did I go this year to watch any? No, I didn't go to anything this year. It was pandemic year. I do remember going to a main camp a couple years ago when my son was playing for Johnstown in the North American Hockey League. I went to the camp, never once interacted with him until maybe later in the day around dinner time. His whole day, they were on the ice twice a day. They were doing things all over the building. I sat up and watched the other games in between during the main camp. I just sat up and watched and kept my distance, talked to some other parents. Never once made eye contact with the coaches, never even tried to get near the coaches, never tried to make it. And I know the two coaches. I knew them ahead of time. But complete distance from everything. So, Perry, yes, you can absolutely go, but just make sure that there's autonomy. Let them be themselves until you're asked to be involved. Maybe if they get ready to sign a player, they say, hey, is your mom or dad here? We'd like them to be in when we talk to you about you signing up for this team. So there's a time and a place for you to get involved. But just watching, that's the best thing to do at this point. Hope that helps a little bit. Okay, if you're having a phone call with junior coaches, is that a place to ask questions when you're reaching out as a futures player? My son is 15. So, Dana, that's a great question, and there's a couple different ways to look at this. If a coach asks you, hey, look, we're on the phone together one-on-one, yeah, ask questions, and but the biggest thing is make sure you're trying to temper your questions into generalized categories. Can you tell? Ask questions that are open where they can answer. In other words, can you tell me about your building process? Can you tell me about new players? Can you tell me about your educational system? Can you tell me about how many players you trade? So you've given them room to explain a process versus a question of, hey, I saw last year you had 18 trades and they're all to first-year players. Can you tell me why you decided to trade so many first-year players? You see the difference there? I don't want to go in where I'm trying to paint that coach into a corner. I want to go in there getting information. At the same time, subtly letting them know, hey, we're watching here. We've got our eye on this, but in no way trying to become a situation where I'm putting a coach in a got you situation or I'm painting him into a corner. And that's one thing you got to be very careful of as a parent. Don't go in with the I'm watching you skeptical look on your face. Go in with, as a parent, even on a phone call, you can probably tell the difference between talking to somebody that's skeptical and how they have inflection in their voice versus somebody that's asking a question to get a answer that's a little more generalized, but you can get all the information. But because you asked a generalized question, you've given the coach a little bit of a heads up that you're paying attention to everything that's going on. I hope that helps a little bit. Okay. Speaking of first impressions, they make a huge impact with billet families. It is an important relationship. Oh, this is huge. I'm so glad. Coming from one of the best billet families out there in North America, I'm glad that they're on tonight. James Weaver, thanks for throwing that on. First impression with billet families is extremely important. And that is possibly one of the strongest relationships you have to have. And I'm so embarrassed that I didn't think about this ahead of time. James, thank you for jumping on and helping me out there, because that relationship can make or break you. It can be just so positive. It can be such a strong, nurturing situation with a good billet relationship. But that means, as a parent, you reach out from a distance. Hey, what can we do to support you? You introduce yourself. But as a parent, you don't want to step over that bounds. You want to make sure that that family knows they've got your support. They've got the ability for you to call, for them to call you if there's any major issues. But hey, the billet family is the family now. It's their rules. So, one of the easiest things as a parent to do is if a billet family reaches out to you and says, hey, look, your son's staying with us this year. Is there anything certain that you say, look, right off the bat, it's your house, it's your rules. We support you. We support whatever you're doing in that house. And, if there's anything that you feel that you're a little bit lax on, let us know. We'll tell you what we do at our house. But otherwise, maybe they're asking because, they have a midnight curfew and they heard that your son had a 10 o'clock curfew at home. In our situation, the first year Adam was away from home, our son, and our daughter too, we realized that the rules could be different across the board. And in our case, both of our kids, my son and daughter, their first stop on the billet road after my son billeted with a relative at 15 and 16. But when they went to juniors, their first stop was Canada. So both of them were open to drinking 2 or 3 years before they could drink in the United States. Now, in my situation, I did not try to fight City Hall on that. How do you tell kids they can't drink when everybody else on their team is having a beer? And the coach is actually buying a pitcher of beer at Pizza Hut for the team because they're all of age. Okay, kind of hard to fight City Hall on that. With some responsibility, we were able to step back and say, hey, look, your rules are your rules, and we'll support whatever rules you have. Now, that's tough as a parent to do. It's tough, especially the younger kids, but it's a really important thing to make sure you have a very strong relationship. I get uncomfortable as a parent that's been both billeted for years, and both of my kids have billeted. When a parent reaches out too much to me, that made me uncomfortable when I was billeting. And it made me uncomfortable when a billet is reaching out too much to me. In other words, hey, it's Tuesday, just wanted to check in, and it's Wednesday, we just wanted to check in with you. No, hey, listen, call me when you have an issue. Let me know if there's any major problems. Are my checks getting to you on time? Is he doing what he's supposed to be doing? If everything is right, fine. Now, if there's a problem, I'll help you walk through a problem. But step away from that, but be very supportive and make sure that the first impression across the board, once again, coming in to meet that billet parent, looking organized and well-dressed makes a huge difference. If you walk in with your pajamas on and flip-flops because you just drove 8 hours in a car with mom and dad and you just woke up from sleeping and you're being dumped off of the billets, not going to set a very good first impression on that. And once again, be prepared. Know a little bit about the billet family. Know a little bit about their process. What were the players that stayed with them in the past? Have you reached out to them? Because kids can Snapchat with kids from 2 or 3 years ago on teams now if they want to. So, and be on time. If you tell a billet family you're going to drop off or you're going to meet them for the first time at 1 o'clock, be there at 1 o'clock, not 4 o'clock. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, let's move on. And once again, James, thanks for that question. Reg says, how does a goalie wow a team in an organization? I've talked about this a lot, Reg. Goalies are different. I've shared this story before with the same coach, Red Berenson, that I shared earlier. Got wowed because of a player I had on my radio show that I was talking to that he'd never seen play. He never watched him play. He heard him present himself. Think about that. A kid ended up getting a full ride scholarship as a junior in high school to start the next year at the University of Michigan because Red Berenson heard him present himself in a very, very professional professional manner on a silly youth hockey radio show. Red Berenson was going to be our next guest. We were talking to the player who happened to be Billy Sauer. Now, Billy Sauer was going to go somewhere. Okay, Billy Sauer was phenomenal on his own way. We just happened to be the little bit of a spark that caught a fire for him a little bit earlier. But it happened because Billy, we didn't do anything for him. He presented himself extremely well. And when he did that, Red Berenson went, wow. So you never know what's going to set off. But I tell you, goalies are different. One flurry can set a coach on fire for you. One save, staying with a play. You make a great save, stay with the play. Make that secondary save. Make that third save. Stay with it. You get scored on, how you respond afterwards. Don't show your emotions. Don't go nuts. Being energetic and being passionate is one thing. Being a crybaby because you got scored on is a different side of it. Don't show that side. Don't show your frustration. Your team scores, fist pump. You make a great save, do your thing. But just remember about what happened to Patrick Waugh when he started showboating because he made a big save against Detroit. Patrick Waugh made a big save against Detroit, flipped the puck out of his glove like it was no big deal. Detroit scores on it, and he looks like a complete fool because he was showboating. And I have all respect for that guy. He's a Hall of Famer, but he showboated at the wrong time, and it cost his team a game because of that. So with a goalie, staying with the play, staying emotionally across the board, even keeled, showing your energy in the right ways. Stick taps when players are doing great things. Staying engaged in the game, making eye contact, all the same things. But it can come down to making a great save, great follow-up save, or rebounding after giving up a goal, especially if you give up what would be considered a soft goal. It can't avalanche into a bad situation. It's got to be something you recover from. Now, that leads into one thing about every player on the ice during tryouts. Coaches are looking for emotionally secure players, okay? If you make a mistake, putting your stick on your head and pretending to bang it against your head, slapping it down, grabbing the side of your head and going, oh, what did I do? No. You make a mistake, you go to the bench and go, I got that one. It won't happen again, to your teammates, not to the coach. Or, hey, guys, I won't let you down again. Or not even saying a word. Just going to the bench with your head up, being prepared for the next shift. Nobody wants to see you act like a baby out there because you made a bad play. Why bring more attention to yourself by banging your stick on the ice, taking your hands and going like this or going, or looking over at a teammate that you are trying out with and automatically pointing fingers or going like this. What did you do that for? And making some kind of shoulder shrug at one of your teammates that may have made a mistake. All those are bad language things. All those are triggers for coaches when they're looking at things and looking at you and what you're made of. So as a goalie, if your D makes a really bad mistake and it costs a goal because you give up a goal, but it's clearly because your D missed a player, you looking at it staring down your defenseman or doing the shoulder shrug at him isn't going to do you any favors. If anything, scoop the puck out of the net, tap your stick on both shoulders, and look like you're ready to go again right off the bat. That's gonna carry you so much further than pointing fingers. Nobody needs to point a finger at tryouts at anybody. It's not going to do you any good. I don't care how big. And you're going to have a bad guy on your line. But remember this, to some other player on the ice, you might be the bad guy on the line. So it can go both ways. Make sure that you're energetic, you got your feet moving, and you're participating. And if you do get on a weak line, because it's a tryout, you do the best you can, okay? You can't shrug your shoulders. You can't give up because you look over and go, oh, that kid's a slug and he's holding me back, so I'm not going to try now. No, you work even harder because the coaches can figure that out. They know who can play and who can't play, and they can figure out right away. But if you give up, that's absolutely not going to help you across the board. So it's a great question, Raj. Thank you. Let's see. I don't know if I can help on this one, but let's see what we got here. My son is an 04 goalie, and most of the combines are sold out. How does he get in front of coaches if he can't get in the ice for these? Contacting directly or sending them film. First of all, to say everything's full, things are filling up, and probably this year is a little bit different than most years. But you got to keep trying, and you reach out to the director of the showcase and say, look, if there's an opening, can you please put me in? Sometimes if you badger enough, they'll add a goalie. Or you can say, hey, look, do you know anybody else that's looking for goalies? Getting your name out there on that list. Social media sites, if there's any goalie sites, and saying, hey, look, I've got a goalie that's looking for showcases. You'd be amazed at how many people will automatically pop back about open showcases or open spots. The other thing to do in that situation is, absolutely take care of the video. And remember, a minute and a half tops on video. Show what you can do. Show that save. Show that you can skate. Show that you got the ability to move and know your angles, and show that you know how to play the second and third shot. Doesn't have to be a lot of tape. Just show energy, okay? And send it out. Once again, that my tip on that is to have a Facebook page solely dedicated to highlight film, okay? And then you use a link to that Facebook page. You want to put more film on there that's just sitting there, So when they go and watch that one, if they want to pull up anything else you got on the page, that's fine. But yeah, minute and a half of tape, send it out to every coach that's at the level that you're at. The goalie situation changes day to day. All you have to do is look at the USHL, look at the North American Hockey League, look at Tier 3 hockey across the board. Teams will shuffle goalies that at the beginning of the year, sometimes 3, 4 goalies, 5 goalies, 6 goalies in that first month they find the right combination. I remember Amarillo last year, and the amount of goalies they went through was high. A couple other junior teams in the North American Hockey League, the number of goalies they went through was high. Then they finally found what they were looking for and settled in. So, across the board, goalie situations can change. Even good goalies can find, themselves moving 2, 3, 4 times the junior level before they settle in. So you just got to keep plugging away. That's the only thing that's a little bit of an anomaly versus other positions. Goalies can end up moving more than other positions across the board. I see a comment here. I didn't even read this at a time, but goalies are like restaurant food. Consistency and presentation, on ice behavior, smashing sticks, looking to the stars after a goal, blaming others. Yeah, I fully agree. That's great comments. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and supporting what I said there. You might have already put that on before. Okay, so I've been told that many of these combines are money grabs. Okay, let's get into money grabs and talk about this. Money grabs should be its own show in itself. I know I'm running long tonight, but I just had a lot of information I want to get out. Money grabs. Our combines, our showcases, money grabs. Are there money grabs out there? There are absolutely money grabs out there. But once again, have you done your homework? Are you prepared? Did you do your homework on what coaches are going to be there? If it's fitting your bill, why are you going to it in the first place? Exposure. What does that mean? Everybody says, "Oh, I'm going to that combine, or I'm going to that showcase for exposure." Okay, did you do your homework to make sure that you're getting exposed to what you want to get exposed to? There are some great showcases in the Boston area that are only great showcases if you're heading to prep schools. Okay, there's showcases in Michigan that are set up in the spring that are only great if you're a high school player and you're looking to play high school, because it's all the high school kids that are getting together. Okay, and these regional smaller showcases are like that. There are junior showcases that are only good if you plan on playing Tier 3 junior hockey. They're not good if you're going into the North American Hockey League or the BCHL or going into the USHL. But there's also other showcases that are specifically good if you're heading to Division I hockey. Okay, it's up to you as a parent and as a player to look at that and to figure out who's going to be there, what's their track record, and are you getting what you wanted out of it? It's never what is a money grab to one person is a value to another person, because you may be heading towards Tier 1 or Division I hockey. Somebody else might be an ACHA club player, and that showcase is perfect for them. For you, you're going, it's a money grab. Everybody there was a college club player. Well, both sides are right. I don't know if calling it a money grab is the right thing, but both sides are right on their perspective. You thinking it's not worth it, and the other person's thinking it was extremely valuable. So it's relative. Are there money grabs? First of all, every single junior team in the United States, sans a couple that do it because they want to prove they can do it, charge for their main camps. They charge for their pre-draft skates. Okay, there's a fee involved because they want to cover their cost. They're not going to incur something, to have players come out and skate for 5, 6, 10 hours and just pick up the tab. There's no money in junior hockey for the most part. If you're a junior hockey owner, been there, sometimes there are years when you're writing checks for $50,000, $100,000 to cover the cost of the year. Other years you might break even. Other years you might make a small profit. But for the most part, unless you have a market where you're consistently getting 1,500 or more fans into a game, you're not making money at this. This is not a money-making venture. So there's other ways you make money at it. You break even or make a profit off of showcases, off of camps and clinics, off of your main camp, and you add it all up collectively, and maybe you eke out a profit in this, or at least you're paying your staff and you make enough money to pay your staff. So it's not if you think juniors that people get into make millions of dollars, that's not the case. you're usually getting into it for a labor of love. And if you own a team, you've usually bought yourself a job, meaning you've got to treat it like a full-time job, just that you got enough money to cover the cost and maybe get enough money to put something in your pocket. There's just absolutely not. I don't buy into that. I didn't buy into it as a parent. It's all relative to what you want. Nothing's for free. Nothing is for free. Across the board, it just isn't the way it works. So, so I'm glad you asked that. A Facebook user, I don't know who that came from, but great. I'm glad you asked it. But I just don't believe that there's money grabs. And not saying that you presented it as you've heard that. You didn't say that you thought there were money grabs, but I just don't believe that. Can you bill it with a coach or a coach that is part of an organization at any level? Can you bill it with a coach? As long as the coach meets all the billet requirements, yes. I was a coach and a GM and an owner, and we had 2 billets in our house almost every year. Very long conversations with the player and the family to make sure that they realized what the lines were. My wife took the role of having the relationship in the house with the players. I kind of stepped away from having any family relationship with the players. Now, I had dinner with them, and it was nice. We'd watch football on Sundays. But there was very little social interaction with me as a coach or as an owner when I had players billeting with me. That relationship was with my family and with my wife for the most part, and it was designed that way so that they felt that they had a little bit of a barrier, so they could let loose and know that it wasn't going to affect them if they act like kids in the house and did what teenagers do around the house. They're not always perfect, and they weren't on guard when I was around. And to be honest with you, it still was there. They were still on guard when I was in the house. So it's difficult. You have to have the right kids. I can tell you that some of our billet relationships are still very strong. Other ones didn't really want to pursue a relationship afterwards because they lived with their coach and didn't really, like that arrangement. But we didn't have any options at the time. So it's a difficult relationship, but it can happen, and you're breaking no rules by having a coach be a billet. Now, a single coach is different, meaning especially if it's a younger single coach, that age gap, it's very difficult to keep yourself as an adult when you've got a junior hockey player billeting with you all the time, and the habits of a 25-year-old or a 27-year-old, and having an 18 or 20-year-old around the house. I wouldn't recommend that. An established family person that's got adult kids or even kids of any age in the house, that can work with coaches. I've seen that relationship numerous times. I don't want to say countless, but I've seen it numerous times, and I've seen it work successfully. Let's see what else we got here. What do you think about players reaching out to coaches, junior level, if they're interested in playing for them, even if that team has not made any contact with them? You have to. Okay, great question, Facebook user. Yes. I have a whole video on this. If you're interested, go to juniorhockeyadvisor.com. There's a whole video on how to, reach your ultimate goal, and part of it is reaching out. This is marketing. This is, you have to establish that, if you're going to play juniors, okay, and you're paying to play, I would never pay anybody $10,000 a year to play if I hadn't marketed and got the best opportunity I could possibly get. I want to be out there searching for the best opportunity, reaching out to coaches, interviewing them to find the best spot possible. If I'm going to get a free situation in the North American Hockey League, the BCHL, the AJHL, or into the North American Hockey League, I want to do my homework to make sure that I know what I'm getting into and what options are out there, and reaching out. If I know I've got a chance to play in the North American Hockey League or the USHL, the more I reach out and build relationships and get my name out there ahead of time, the different possibilities for tenders and drafts come up. I want to make sure that there's a lot of people that could potentially draft me or tender me. At the Tier 3 level, I want to do my homework. You could end up spending literally $30,000, $40,000 in juniors to play Tier 3. A couple years in juniors can add up. Now, is it worth it? I would argue that it's relative, and I think it's worth it in most situations to play juniors and to have that experience. But I want to do my homework. I want to reach out to those coaches. I want to know, who's interested. And the only way to build interest is to reach out. So twofold. You want to build interest, and it's marketing 101. Reaching out to more times, putting out a video, minute and a half video, telling you, the first initial emails need to be name, position, height, weight, grade point average, who you're playing for, and that's it. And here's my highlight video. I'm interested in you, coach. Here's my vitals. Okay, it doesn't need to be anything special, but getting those vitals out there, getting on that list. You've heard me talk about this before. You want to be on that coach's list. Go back to last weekend. I talked about that in one of the marathons. Anybody wants to jump in and tell anybody which one, I can't remember. But during the marathons last week when I did 6 hours, we talked about getting on the right list. The only way you get on the list is to reach out. Now, there are people that are scouted that are on the list because the scouting staff went out and found players. Then there's players that have reached out to the coach. Those are the two priorities a coach has. This might get 80 or 90% of the coach's attention, and his scouting staff said, these are the players you want to watch this weekend, coach. The coach may only give these players 10%, but it's 10% more than the rest of the people on the ice that don't have any connection with that coach. I've told you this before. It's absolutely true. I've done it. I've watched NHL scouts do this. They get on the list of the players that they need to watch, that they're there to watch. Maybe there's 3 players in the game that they're there to watch. When that kid's not on the ice, they're taking notes. Your son Johnny could have a 4-goal game and never be seen by a coach because he's taking notes or watching somebody else. You can't assume because there could be 80 coaches in the stands, all with separate agendas, all with a list of players that they brought that they wanted to see. Many times it's the same players they're all watching. They might have a small list over here of players that have reached out to them. They get a little bit of attention. The rest may never get a chance to be seen because the coach is worried about this list and potentially this list. So yes, reach out, and then when you're not reaching out, find a way to reach out again. Great question. I'm glad you asked that across the board. I'm going to take a couple more, then I'm going to wrap it up. I'm surprised so many of you stayed with me, but and I appreciate that. Should all player highlight tapes be about a minute and a half? Yeah, Dana, yes. At the beginning, yes. If coaches want more, they'll ask for more. And they might not even ask you. They might reach right out to your U16 coach, your U18 coach, your current junior team. They might know how to get access the tape right from Live Barn or access tape right from hockey TV. So yes, all you're doing is whetting the appetite at that point. How do you locate showcases? I'm working on a way to do a couple things. I'm working on a way to put. I want to stay middle of the road. I don't want to get into recommending showcases across the board. I use the big ones. I tell you, the Boston area. I've said it before. The pre-draft is a big one in the Boston. The Beantown, the Chowder Cup. Those are big events. The NCDC event is a big event. Those are all showcases on the East Coast. Detroit has a couple showcases that actually are from teams on the East Coast that run out of the Detroit market. There's one in Memphis, there's one in, Nashville, and there's one in Colorado that I don't know the names off of the top of my head. There's other showcases out there too. They change so much except for the solid 4 or 5 that are always around. But once again, they're relative, and I'm trying to find a way to do this where I don't get in the middle and try to recommend individual showcases, because once again, what's important to you, Reg, may not be. It might be a crap showcase for somebody else, or above or below somebody else. So I want to try to figure out that it's very difficult. It's just like when people ask me all the time, can you tell me how to find advisors and who should advise me? Once again, it's like hiring a lawyer. Do you need a estate plan? Do you need a slip and fall lawyer? Do you need trust and estate lawyer? What are you trying to do? There's the litigator. There's so many things you could possibly be trying. Everybody needs it for a different situation. So a tough one to answer, Reg, but I'm trying a little bit. I would say take the few things I just mentioned and run with those. Maybe we can get a thread going. Maybe start a discussion group thread on that, and maybe I can find a way to do that without having anybody take advantage of just trying to sell their product on there, which is always the case when with our group. Combines are a great way to get noticed. Thanks for that. Goalie tapes, what should be put on the reel? I think I covered that, but I'll cover it again really quick. First save, initial save, and follow-up saves. Show that you can skate, show that you know how to play your angles. so that you can move across and track the puck from side to side. Very good. Hey, look, here's a great way to end it for the night. Thank you for answering my question. I really appreciate these videos. They're very helpful for a parent that is new to junior hockey and whose son has aspirations of playing at the next level. That's a great way to end it. I know I went long tonight. I apologize. I hope you found this helpful. Remember, if you want to win a free consult section, invite some people to our Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group. The more you invite and the more the people that join, the more opportunity you get to win. We'll pull a random name out of the hat, and we'll pull the one that gets the most people to join the advisor group. We got some great things coming up. We're going to get a little bit more specific on things. You've been a great audience across the board. Keep it going. Keep this growing. JuniorHockeyAdvisor.com is the website. Junior Hockey Advisor on YouTube has a ton of videos up there. You can always go in and subscribe there, but do me a favor. At least join the discussion group. If you're already part of the discussion group, make sure you go over to the Facebook page and like and follow that too. It's important to us to keep growing the audience if all those things happen. We got a lot of good things coming down with new content and new design, but we really need your help to grow this. And the more you can help me grow this, the more I appreciate it, and we can keep doing this stuff. Thank you very much. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great week in hockey.